Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Crack UPSC CSE English. In today's session, our crash course for Prelim 2021 Inspire will learn about judicial activism. Yes friends, as we have started with or we have completed the Parliament, Supreme Court, then now today we'll cover judicial activism. It's my pleasure to welcome you all on Unacademy, India's largest learning platform, where you will get unlimited live lectures, recorded classes, structured courses, live tests, and all. It's me, Rushikesh Inamdar, guiding UPSC aspirants from last 8 years. You can follow me on Unacademy, and also you can join our Telegram group using this link. Yes, we have mega subscription offer valid till 20th April. So friends, you can subscribe our courses for 1 year and you will get assured validity till prelims 2022. Those aspirants are looking for 2 years courses, so they can go with the 2-year plan which valid till prelims 2023. Yes, do not forget to use code RBI Live for the subscription under this mega subscription offer. Yes, these are the paid courses of Unacademy Plus and Iconic subscription, where we will give you complete structured courses through India's best educators. Yes, so you can ask doubts to them during the live session. Do not forget to use code referral code RBI Live to get 10% discount on these paid courses. Yes friends, also you will eligible to get 10% discount on your optional subscription as well with referral code RBI Live. We have combo subscription offer as well for the duration of 1 year, 2 year and 3 year. Yes, here also you will get 10% discount after using referral code RBI Live. Yes friends, in this combo subscription you can study with general studies and optional subject. Yes, those aspirants are planning to start their preparation after their 12th examination or during their graduation. They can go with our iconic subscription where you will get all the features of plus courses along with personal guidance, study planner and experts guideline. Yes friends, do not forget to join Unacademy free test series. Yes, we are covering your complete GS and current affairs. Just you have to use code RBI Live to unlock these tests. Yes, these are the new batches starting from 7th April. So we have targeted batches for preliminary examination. We have 1-year batches, 2-year batches, NCERT batches, and various courses which includes MCQs, PYQs, and targeted study for prelims as well. So as per your convenience, you can start the preparation for civil services with Unacademy. Yes friends, Unacademy Combat. Now friends, we are conducting the free scholarship test on every Sunday in the morning 11 a.m. Now this Unacademy Combat is available in Hindi and English medium. Yes, you can also use code RBI Live to enroll for Unacademy Combat. So we'll start today's topic, judicial activism. So in this topic, we'll see what is meant by judicial activism. Yes, in which we'll cover all aspects of judicial activism. Yes, the definition and also related cases, examples, and significance of judicial activism. So, the judiciary plays an important role in upholding and promoting the rights of citizens in a country. Yes, the role of judiciary is important in any democratic or any nation where the judiciary plays a significant and important role in upholding and promoting the rights of citizens in a country. Yes, so the active role of the judiciary in upholding the rights of citizens and preserving the constitutional and legal system. Yes, so preserving the constitutional and legal system of the country is known as judicial activism. So this entails sometimes overstepping into the territories of the executive. Candidates should know the judicial overreach is an aggravated version of judicial activism. Yes. So the role of judiciary, which preserving the constitutional and legal system of the country, is known as judicial activism. Now, the concept of judicial activism originated and developed in the USA. Yes, now we'll see how the concept evolved. Yes, friends. So the concept of judicial activism originated and developed in the USA, United States of America. And this term, judicial activism, was first coined in 1947 by Arthur Schlesinger Jr. Yes, an American historian and educator. Yes, his article entitled as the Supreme Court 1947 was published in the Fortune magazine. Yes. So in the context of India, the doctrine of judicial activism was introduced in mid-1970s, where Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer, Justice P.N. Bhagwati, Justice O. Chinnappa Reddy, and Justice D.A. Desai laid the foundations of judicial activism in the country. Yes, in our country, judicial activism was introduced in mid-1970s. Yes, Ramkumar. Today we are covering judicial activism. So, Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer, Justice P.N. Bhagwati, Justice O. Chinnappa Reddy, and Justice D.A. Desai laid the foundation of judicial activism in the country. Now, the meaning of judicial activism we'll see. Yes, now the judicial activism was evolved in mid-1970s in our country. Now we'll see or we'll understand the meaning of judicial activism. Yes, which denotes the proactive role played by the judiciary in the protection of the rights of citizens and in the promotion of justice in the society. In other words, it implies the assertive role played by the judiciary to force the other two organs of the government, that is legislature and executive, to discharge their constitutional duties. Yes. So, the proactive role played by the judiciary in the protection of the rights of citizens and in the promotion of justice in the society. Yes, it implies the assertive role played by the judiciary to force the other two organs of the government, legislature and executive, to discharge their constitutional duties. So judicial activism is also known as judicial dynamism. So it is the antithesis of judicial restraint, which means the self-control exercised by the judiciary. Yes. So, judicial activism is defined in the following way. Now, we'll see how judicial activism is defined by various sources. Now, first, judicial activism is a way of exercising judicial power that motivates judges to depart from normally practiced strict adherence to judicial precedent in favor of progressive and new social policies. It is commonly marked by decision calling for social engineering, and occasionally these decisions represent intrusion in the legislative and executive matters. Yes, this was defined in Black's Law Dictionary. So, friends, judicial activism is a way of exercising judicial powers that motivates judges to depart from normally practiced strict adherence to judicial precedent in favor of progressive and new social policies. It is commonly marked by decision calling for social engineering, and occasionally these decisions represent intrusion in the legislative and executive matters. Yes, judicial activism is the practice in the judiciary of protecting or expanding individual rights through decisions that depart from established precedent or are independent of or in opposition to supposed constitutional or legislation intent. Yes, which was described in Merriam-Webster's Dictionary of Law. So, judicial activism can be defined as the process of lawmaking by judges, and it means an active interpretation of existing legislation by a judge made with a view to enhance the utility of that legislation for social betterment. Judicial activism is different from judicial pessimism, which means interpretation of existing provision of law without an attempt to enhance its beneficial aspects. Yes, so judicial activism is the practice in the judiciary of protecting or expanding individual rights through decisions that depart from established precedent or are independent of or in opposition to supposed constitutional or legislation intent, and also defined as the process of lawmaking by judges. Yes, the judicial activism is a philosophy of judicial decision making whereby judges allow their personal views about public policy, among other factors, to guide their decisions. Yes, so judicial activism is a procedure to evolve new principles, concepts, maxims, formula, and relief to do justice or to expand the standing of the litigant and open the door of courts for needy or to enter litigation affecting the entire society or a section of it. Yes. So this was defined by P.B. Samant with judicial independence, myth and reality. Yes. One of the Supreme Court judge. So judicial activism is a procedure to evolve new principles, concepts, maxims, formula, and relief to do justice or to expand the standing of the litigant and open the door of courts for needy or to entertain litigation affecting the entire society or a section of it. Yes. So, the concept of judicial activism is closely related to the concept of public interest litigation, PIL. Yes. Now, in the next session, definitely we'll discuss about public interest litigation in detail. Now, here just understand the concept of judicial activism is closely related to the concept of public interest litigation, and it is the judicial activism of the Supreme Court which is the major factor for rise of public interest litigations. In other words, PIL is an outcome of judicial activism. Yes. So, PIL is the most popular form or manifestation of judicial activism. So, here we can say public interest litigation is an outcome of judicial activism. Yes, moving further, we'll see judicial review and judicial activism. Yes, the concepts of judicial review and judicial activism are closely related to each other, but there is difference between them. Yes, so we'll see all these points step by step, which will bring out the difference. Yes. So, since about the 20th century, a version of judicial review has acquired the thick name of judicial activism, especially in the United States of America. And in context of India, the participants in the debate mix up judicial activism with judicial review. Yes, the former is that form of latter in which judges participate in lawmaking policies. That is, not only they uphold or invalidate laws in terms of constitutional provisions, but also exercise their policy preferences in doing so. Yes. The concept of judicial activism is inherent in judicial review, which empowers the court to uphold the constitution and declare the laws and action inconsistent with the constitution as void. Yes, judicial activism is necessary for ensuring proper discharge of duties by other organs. Yes. So, yes, Susmita, in today's session, we are studying about judicial activism. So, judicial activism is necessary for ensuring proper discharge of duties by other organs. Yes, the term judicial activism came into currency sometime in the 20th century to describe the act of judicial legislation. Yes, that is, judges making positive law, and however, there is no standard definition of them. Yes, there is no standard definition of the term judicial activism. So, as a whole, it can be said that judicial activism stresses the importance of judicial review and a powerful judiciary in the protection and promotion of certain core rights. Yes, the expanded concept of locus standi in connection with PIL by judicial interpretation from time to time and has expanded the jurisdictional limits of the courts exercising judicial review. So, this expanded role has been given the title of judicial activism by those who are critical of this expanded role of the judiciary. Yes, judicial activism as regard constitutional cases falls under the rubric of what is commonly called judicial review, and at the broadest level, it is any occasion where a court intervenes and strikes down a piece of duly enacted legislation. Yes. Now, justification of judicial activism. So, according to Dr. B.L. Vadera, the reasons for judicial activism are as follows. Like, there is near collapse of the responsible government when the legislature and executive fail to discharge their respective functions. This results in erosion of the confidence in the constitution and democracy among the citizens. The citizens of the country look up to the judiciary for the protection of their rights and freedoms. This leads to tremendous pressure on judiciary to step in aid for the suffering masses. Yes, judicial enthusiasm. That is, the judges like to participate in the social reforms that takes place in the changing times. It encourages the public interest litigation PIL and liberalize the principle of locus standi. Yes. So, legislative vacuum, that is, there may be certain areas which have not been legislated upon, and it is therefore upon court to indulge in judicial legislation and to meet the changing social needs. Yes. So, the Constitution of India has itself adopted certain provisions which gives judiciary enough scope to legislate or to play an active role. Yes. So similarly, Subhash Kashyap, expert on constitution, observes that certain eventualities may be conceived when the judiciary may have to overstep its normal jurisdiction and intervene in areas otherwise falling within the domain of the legislature and the executive. Yes. So he observes when the legislature fails to discharge its responsibilities. Yes. In case of a hung legislature, when the government it provides is weak, insecure and busy only in the struggle for survival, and therefore unable to take any decision which displeases any caste, community or other group. Yes, those in power may be afraid of taking honest and hard decisions for fear of losing power. For that reason, may have public issues referred to courts as issues of law in order to mark time and delay decisions or to pass on the odium of strong decision making to the courts. Yes, where the legislature and the executive fail to protect the basic rights of citizens, like the right to live a decent life, healthy surroundings, or to provide honest, efficient, and just system of laws and administration. Yes, he observed that where the courts of law is misused by a strong authoritarian parliamentary party government for ulterior motives, as was sought to be done during the emergency abrasion. Yes, sometimes the courts themselves knowingly or unknowingly become victims of all too human weakness of craze for populism, publicity, playing to the media and honking the headlines. Yes. So, according to Dr. Vandana, the concept of judicial activism can be seen be reflecting from the following trends, like which namely expansion of rights of hearing in the administrative process, excessive delegation without limitation, expansion of judicial control over discretionary powers, expansion of judicial review over the administration, promotion of open government, indiscriminate exercise of contempt power, exercise of jurisdiction when none exist, over existing, extending the standard rules of interpretation in its search to achieve economic, social, and educational objectives. Yes, passing of orders which are per say unworkable. Yes, so these are the trends which was observed by Dr. Vandana, one of the experts. Yes, now after that we'll see the activators of judicial activism. Yes, Upendra Bakshi, an eminent jurist, has delineated the following typology of social human rights activists who activated judicial activism were civil rights activists. So these groups primarily focus on civil and political rights issues. People rights activists, these groups focus on social and economic rights. Within the context of within the context of state repression of people's movement, consumer rights groups. So these formations raise issues of consumer rights within the framework of accountability of the polity and the economy. Yes. Yes. So the consumer right groups, these formations raise issues of consumer rights within the framework of accountability of the polity and the economy. Then bonded labor groups. These groups ask for judicial activism is nothing short of annihilation of wage slavery in India. Citizens for environmental action. So these groups activate and activists judiciary to combat increasing environmental degradation and pollution. Citizen groups against large irrigation projects. So these activists formation ask the Indian judiciary the impossible for any judiciary in the world, namely cease to and desist from ordering against mega irrigation projects. Yes, then rights of child groups. So these groups focus on child labor, the right to literacy, juveniles in custodial institutions, and rights of children born to sex workers. Then custodial rights groups. Yes, these groups include social action by prisoners. Yes, so these groups include social actions by prisoners' rights group, women under state protective custody, and the persons under preventive detention. Yes. Then, poetry rights groups. These groups litigate issues concerning drought and famine relief and urban impoverished. Yes. Indigenous people's rights groups. These groups agitate for issues of forest dwellers, citizen of the 5th and 6th schedules of the Indian Constitution, and identity rights. Yes, women's rights groups. These groups agitate for issues of gender equality, gender-based violence, and harassment, rape, and dowry murders. Yes, bar-based groups. These associations agitate the issues concerning autonomy and accountability of the Indian judiciary. Yes. Media autonomy groups. These groups focus on the autonomy and accountability of the press and instruments of mass media owned by the state. Associated lawyer-based groups. This category includes the critically influential lawyers groups which agitate for various causes, and associated individual petitioners. This category includes freelance activists, individuals which fighting for the rights of various sections of the society. Yes. So these are the groups. Various groups, or we can say activators of judicial activism, civil rights activists, people rights activists, consumer rights groups, bonded labor groups, citizens for environmental action, citizen groups against large irrigation projects, rights of child groups, custodial rights groups, poverty rights groups, indigenous peoples rights groups, women's rights groups, bar-based groups, media autonomy, associated lawyer-based, and assorted individual petitioners. Yes. Now, we'll see apprehensions of judicial activism. So, the same jurist Upendra Bakshi also presented a typology of fears which are generated by judicial activism. Yes, he observed the facts entail invocation of a wide range of fears, and the invocation is designed to bring into a nervous rationality among India's most conscientious justices. He's described the following types of fears like ideological fears. Yes, are the uprising powers of the legislature, the executives, or of other autonomous institutions in a civil society? Epistemic fears. Do they have enough knowledge in economic matters of Manmohan Singh? In scientific matters of thus of the atomic energy establishment, the captains of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, and so on? Yes. Then he stated the management fears. So are they doing justice by adding this kind of litigation work load to a situation of staggering growth of areas? Yes. Legitimation fears. Yes. So are not they causing depletion of their symbolic and instrumental authority by passing orders in public interest litigation which the executive may bypass or ignore? And would not the people's faith in judiciary, a democratic resource, be thus eroded? Then democratic fears. So, is a profusion of public interest litigation nurturing democracy or depleting its potential for the future? Biographic fears. So, what would be my place in national affairs after superannuation if I overdo this kind of litigation? Yes, biographic fears. So, these are the apprehensions of judicial activism was mentioned by the jurist Upendra Bakshi. Yes, these are the various types of fears in connected with the judicial activism. Now, here we'll see judicial activism versus judicial restraint. Yes. So, the meaning of judicial restraint. Yes, friends. So, judicial activism and judicial restraint are the two alternative judicial philosophies in United States, and those who subscribe to judicial restraint contend that the role of the judges should be scrupulously limited. Yes. So their job is merely to say what the law is, leaving the business of lawmaking where it properly belongs, that is with the legislatures and the executives. So under no circumstances, moreover, should judges allow their personal political values and policy agendas to color their judicial opinions. Yes, this view holds that the original intent of the authors of the Constitution and its amendments is noble and must guide the courts. Yes, then assumptions of judicial restraint. So, in the United States, the doctrine of judicial restraint is based on the following 6 assumptions, where the court is basically undemocratic because it is non-elective and presumably responsive to the popular will. Because of its alleged oligarchic composition, the court should differ wherever possible to the more democratic branches of government. Yes, the questionable origins of the great power of judicial review. So, a power not specifically granted by the Constitution, the doctrine of separation of powers. Yes, the concept of federalism, dividing powers between the nation and the states requires of the court difference towards the action of state governments and officials. Yes, the non-ideological but pragmatic assumptions that since the court is dependent on the Congress for its jurisdiction and resources and dependent on public acceptance for its effectiveness, yes, it ought not to overstep its boundaries without consideration of the risks involved. Yes, the aristocratic notion that being a court of law and inheritor and custodian of the Anglo-American legal tradition in ought not to go too far to the level of politics law being process of reason and judgment and politics being concerned only with power and influence. Yes. So, it is clear that all the assumptions hold good in the Indian context too. Yes. So, except the second dealing with the judicial review. So, the remaining assumptions hold good in the Indian context too. Yes. Now, after that, we'll see the Supreme Court observations on judicial activism. Yes. So, while delivering a judgment in December 2007, the Supreme Court of India yes, the Supreme Court of India called for judicial restraint and asked courts not to take over the functions of their legislature or the executive, saying there is a broad separation of powers under the constitution and each organ of the state must have respect for others and should not encroach on others' domain. So, in this context, the concerned bench of the court made the following observations. Like the bench said, we are repeatedly coming across cases where judges are unjustifiably trying to perform executive or legislative functions. This is clearly unconstitutional. So, in the name of judicial activism, judges cannot cross their limits and try to take over functions which belongs to another organ of the state. Yes. The bench said judges must know their limits and must not to try to run the government. They must have modesty and humility and not behave like emperors. Yes. Quoting from the book The Spirit of Laws by Montesquieu on the consequences of not maintaining separation of powers among the three organs, the bench said the French political philosophers' warning is particularly apt and timely for the Indian judiciary today, since very often it is rightly criticized for overreach and encroachment of the domain of the two organs. Yes. So, judicial activism must not become judicial adventurism. The bench warned the court's adjudication must be done within the system of historically validates restraints and conscious minimization of judges. Yes, Con- conscious minimization of judges' preferences. So, the courts must not embrace administrative authorities and must realize that administrative authorities have expertise in the field of administration while the court does not. Yes, the bench said the justification often given for judicial encroachment on the domain of the executive or the legislature is that other two organs are not doing their job properly. So, even assuming this is so, the same allegations can be made against the judiciary too, because there are cases pending in courts for half a century. See how the observations by the Supreme Court in the regard with the judicial activism. Yes. So, if the legislature or the executive was not functioning properly, it was for the people to correct the defects by exercising their franchise properly in the next elections and voting for candidates who would fulfill their expectations or by other lawful methods. Example, peaceful demonstrations. Yes. So, the remedy is not in the judiciary taking over the legislative or the executive functions, because that will not only violate the delicate balance of power enshrined in the Constitution, but also the judiciary has neither the expertise nor the resources to perform these functions. Yes, the bench said judicial restraint is consistent with and complementary to the balance of power among the three independent branches of the state. It accomplishes this is in two ways. First, judicial restraint not only recognizes the equality of the other two branches with the judiciary, and it is also fosters equality by minimizing inter-branch interference by the judiciary. Second, judicial restraint tends to protect the independence of the judiciary, and when courts encroach on the legislative or administrative fields, almost inevitably voters, legislators, and other elected officials will conclude that the activities of judges should be closely monitored. Yes. So, these are the Supreme Court observations in regard with the judicial activism, yes. Now, we'll see judicial activism examples. So, it all started when the Allahabad court rejected the candidature of Indira Gandhi in 1973. Yes, in 1979, the Supreme Court of India ruled that under trials in Bihar had already served time for more period than they would have and had they been convicted. Yes. Next is Golochnat Case, where the questions in this case were whether the amendment is a law and whether fundamental rights can be amended or not. So Supreme Court contended that fundamental rights are not amenable to the parliamentary restrictions as stated in Article 13, and that to amend the fundamental rights a new constituted assembly would be required. Yes, also stated that Article 368 gives the procedure to amend the constitution but does not confer on parliament the power to amend the constitution. Yes. Then Keshwanand Bharati case. This judgment defined the basic structure of the constitution, and the Supreme Court held that although no part of the constitution, including fundamental rights, was beyond the parliament's amending power, the basic structure of the constitution could not be abrogated even by a constitutional amendment. This is the basis in Indian law in which the judiciary can strike down an amendment passed by parliament that is in conflict with the basic structure of the constitution. Yes. In the 2G scam, the Supreme Court cancelled 122 telecom licenses and spectrum allocated to 8 telecom companies on the grounds that the process of allocation was flawed. Yes, the Supreme Court rolled out a blanket ban on firecrackers in Delhi NCR area with certain exceptions in 2018, and the Supreme Court invoked terror laws against alleged money launderer Hassan Ali Khan. Yes, so these are the judicial activism examples. Yes. Then, now after that, we'll see the road ahead with judicial activism. So, judicial activism is a product fabricated solely by the judiciaries. Yes. And not backed by the constitution. So, when the judiciary surpasses the line of the powers set for it in the name of judicial activism, it could be rightly said that the judiciary then begins to invalidate the concept of separation of powers set out in the constitution. If judges can freely decide and make laws of their choices, it would not only go against the principle of separation of powers, but will result in chaos and uncertainty in the law, as every judge will start writing his own laws according to his fates and quirks. Yes, so judicial exercise has to be respected to maintain a clear balance. Yes, so making laws making laws is the function and duty of the legislature. Yes, making laws is a function and duty of the legislature to fill the gap of laws and to implement them in a proper manner. Yes, so that the only work remaining for the judiciary in interpretations. Yes, only a fine equilibrium between these government bodies can sustain the constitutional values. Yes. So, it's all about judicial activism. Yes. So, just have a recap what we have covered in today's session. So, we have started with the active role of the judiciary in upholding the rights of citizens and preserving the constitutional and legal system of the country is known as judicial activism. Yes. So, the concept of judicial activism originated and developed in the United States of America, and this term was coined in 1947 by Arthur Schlesinger Jr. Yes, in India, the doctrine of judicial activism was introduced in mid 1970s. So Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer, Justice P.N. Bhagwati, Justice O. Chinnappa Reddy, and Justice D.A. Desai laid the foundation of judicial activism in the country. Yes, then we have covered meaning of judicial activism. Yes. So, judicial activism denotes the proactive role played by the judiciary in the protection of the rights of citizens and the promotion of justice in the society. Yes, in other words, we can say the judicial activism implies the assertive role played by the judiciary to force the other two organs of the government to discharge their constitutional duties. Yes, the judicial activism is also known as judicial dynamism. Yes, this activism is defined in the following way. we have covered all this defined way of judicial activism through various sources, where we have covered like judicial activism is a procedure to evolve new principles, concepts, maxims, formula and relief to do justice or to expand the standing of the litigant and open the door of courts for needy or to entertain litigation affecting the entire society or a section of it. Yes. Then we have covered judicial review and judicial activism. Yes. So the concept of judicial review and judicial activism are closely related to each other. So, but there is a difference between them and we have covered various points. So, judicial activism is necessary for ensuring proper discharge of duties by other organs. Yes. Then, justification of judicial activism we have covered. Yes. Yes, Mohammed Ibrahim. We are studying in our crash course for Civil Services Prelims 2021. Today we have covered judicial activism. So you can join our Telegram group for any other information. Yes. Then we have covered the observations by expert Subhash Kashyap on judicial activism. Yes. Then we have covered the concept of judicial activism can be seen to reflecting from various trends like expansion of rights of hearing in administrative process, excessive delegation without limitation, expansion of judicial control over discretionary powers, then expansion of judicial review over the administration, promotion of open government, indiscriminate exercise of contempt power, exercise of jurisdiction when none exist, overextending the standard rules of interpretation in its search to achieve economic, social, and educational objectives, and passing of orders which are per say unworkable. Yes. Then we have covered the activators of judicial activism. Where we have covered civil rights activists, people rights activists, consumer rights groups, bonded labor groups, citizens for environmental action, citizens groups against large irrigation projects, rights of child groups, custodial rights groups, poverty rights groups, indigenous peoples rights group, women's rights groups, bar-based groups, media autonomy groups, associated lawyer-based groups, and associated individual petitioners. Yes. So, Mohammed, just as we have covered, just remember in short that the active role of judiciary in upholding the rights of citizen and preserving the constitutional and legal system of the country is known as judicial activism. Yes, so the active role of the judiciary in upholding the rights of citizens and preserving the constitutional and legal system of the country is known as judicial activism. Yes. So, then we have covered apprehensions of judicial activism. Yes. Ideological fears, epistemic fears, management fears, democratic biographic fears. And then we have covered judicial activism versus judicial restraint. Yes, the meaning of judicial restraint we have covered. So, assumptions of judicial restraint. And then we have covered the Supreme Court observation in the regard with judicial activism. Yes. Basically, Supreme Court mentioned that there is a broad separation of powers under the Constitution and each organ of the state, legislature, executive, and judiciary. Yes, then we have covered the judicial activism examples like Golochnat case, Keshwan and the Bharti case, 2G scam case, and remaining two cases. And then we have covered road ahead with judicial activism. So, now concluding this session. So, making laws is the function and duty of the legislature. Yes. To fill the gap of laws and to implement them in proper manner. Yes, so that the only work remaining for the judiciary is interpretations of laws. So only a fine equilibrium between these government bodies can sustain the constitutional values. Yes. So, as we have covered the judicial activism in today's session. So friends, in the next session, we'll see new topic. Till the time you can revise, you can revise what we have covered in all the lectures of Polity. And do not forget to join our Telegram group using this link. And also you can use a referral code RBI Live to get 10% discount in our paid courses. So please like, share and subscribe of Unacademy videos. And friends, keep studying, keep revising. Those aspirants are planning to appear for prelims this year. They can join our test series, which we are providing free to all aspirants. Yes friends, and do not forget to attend Unacademy Combat on every Sunday in the morning 11 a.m. So see you in the next lecture with new topic. All the best. Take care.